The last thing we want to do when we spend a whole bunch of money on preparedness supplies is bury them in the ground, never to be seen again, right? Today, in this video, I want to show you why that might be a decent option, something that you might want to do. Today, I've got a few different types of survival caches, all with a bunch of different supplies in them. And I'm also going to bury these. I'm going to have to get my tractor out because this is a lot of survival caches, but I'm going to bury these. And then next year, we're going to dig those up. We're going to dig these up, and then we are going to see what survived and what didn't, the different types of caches and the different types of seals. Now, before we get into opening these up, I want to explain what exactly is a survival cache. And a survival cache is basically important preparedness supplies buried in strategic locations or put in strategic locations if and when the worst case scenario happens. You need to bug out, you need to get home, and having a few supplies somewhere on that route may be really beneficial. If you are bugging out, maybe you don't want to put everything in your bug out bag, and having some stuff in a cache halfway from where you are to your home may be a good idea. I will go into more detail towards the end of this video about what you might want and when these might be useful. But right now, let's go ahead and dig into some of these. I'll show you what I put in here in each of these. And then what we're going to do is go right out back behind me here, and we are going to bury these. And then, like I said, next year we'll do another video and we'll open these up and see what survived. All right, so let's go ahead and open up a couple of these. And these aren't exactly kits. I put these together mainly for the supplies in them to see how they would do in the underground if they do happen to get wet or the elements get to them. So it's not necessarily kits, but it's more the supplies themselves. So let's, first I've got this Gordon survival kit that I just did a review on. This is a Harbor Freight survival kit. It's got quite a few different supplies in here. I put some toilet paper in here. I put toilet paper in all of these just to see if moisture would get in there. But I've got this survival kit right here. This may do well because of how tight this seal is right here. It is really nice and tight and should do pretty well, but we will see. Then I've got this ammo can right here, and I don't have a whole bunch of stuff in here, but I just wanted to see how this would stand up. It seals pretty tight. It's got a little O-ring right here, not the greatest O-ring. And I've just got some survival ration bars, a little bit of toilet paper, and a little survival kit right here. We'll see how this stands up as well. And then I've got this case right here. We'll move this out of the way. I've got this ammo crate right here, which is a nice little case. I'm not sure how this is going to do though, because this is not the stated purpose of this case. When it's underground, the round ones are going to do better. This has got an O-ring right here, but these square flat top ones, I'm just not sure when you put pressure on it how this is going to do, so we will see. But in this one, this is almost a kit. Actually, this is basically a comms kit. Got a little bit of food right here. I've got a solar panel. In here, I've got the toilet paper, I've got a ham radio, an old Baofeng, I've got a little Agritech charger right there so I can use this solar panel, a headlamp. I can use this kit right here if everything survives for a comms kit. Now, I'm hoping this one does because there's a few things in here I really like, even though they are sort of old and just sit on the shelf, but that's this kit right here. And then you've got this PVC cache right here, which is probably the best one as far as being airtight and not going to be allowing moisture in. And this one I put together. I will show you the directions on how to put this together. It's really simple. This is the most expensive route of all of these, but this may turn out being the most effective. So before we dig into this, let me show you how you put this together real quick. All right, so let's go ahead and put together this PVC cache, which is going to be the most watertight and airtight one there is. This one, you need this 2-inch piece right here. This one is 4 inches. They do make them that are 6 inches, but they are really hard to find. At Home Depot, you can get them on Amazon, but at Home Depot, the easiest way is to get the 4-inch piece. And then you've got an end cap right here, which goes on the end, and I'll show you that in a second. And then you've got the coupling right here, which is basically a piece you just throw on here so you can put this piece on. Now, this is the only piece I could find at Home Depot. Sometimes you can get away with one piece that is both of these pieces together. So you've got one piece that goes on this side, and then it's got the threaded part on this side. They didn't have that there, so I needed this one. And then you put together, then you throw on the end here, and this is what this whole piece looks like once it's done. And then to cap all of this off, you've got the lid that goes on right here. And then you've got the purple primer and the regular clear PVC cement to make sure all of these pieces are really nicely put together and airtight. And I also bought a wrench because a lot of times when I've buried these caches, you pull them up and you don't have anything to undo the top. So having one of these wrenches just makes everything nice and easy. All right, so as you can see, fairly easy to do. And let's open this up. I haven't threaded it. I haven't put any thread tape on the seal yet and haven't tightened it up. In here, we've got the toilet paper. We've got the ammo. We've got some first aid supplies. We've got some fire starting supplies. We've got a knife, a Red Cross water filter, and a little bit of canned food. Now with the food, you'll see in a bunch of these buckets I have food. We need to bury this below the frost line. Out here in Colorado, we're looking at 36 to 40 inches where I am. So we've got to make sure it's buried below there, because if this freezes, this could cause a huge mess. So that's something to look out for next year as well, opening up this cache. And if it stinks like crazy, we know this stuff busted open. All right, now that we've got everything back in there, let's go ahead and put some Teflon tape on this cap right here, and we'll tighten this up really well. This Blue Monster Teflon tape is really nice. I really like this stuff. And if you are using the regular normal tape, you want to maybe just get a couple extra little wraps, but just to make sure it's sealed up. But I really do like this stuff. And then we'll go ahead, we'll get that as tight as we possibly can, and then we'll bury it. And then I've got two different buckets here. And the reason I have two different buckets is because one of them has the gamma lid like this right here. And I'm not sure, I know this isn't airtight because these aren't good for food storage, just like this. So I might put some Teflon tape on here, see how this does. And then I've got the regular lids, which are airtight. And it's got the O-ring in here, nice O-ring, so we can pound this on and put it on real tight there. So we'll see how each one of these stacks up. In these buckets, I have a little bit of chili mac that I made a while back out of the harvest right. Again, roll of toilet paper. I've got a canteen that's about half filled with water. I've got a sterno right here. I've got some quick oats, mainly just because I wanted to see how this container holds up. If it does get wet, that's probably pretty toast. And I've got a little cheap Walmart survival knife, a little EDC kit, a solar panel, a little external battery bank with solar panels on it to get a little bit of power. This is fully charged right now, but I guarantee you when I go to dig this up a year from now, it won't be. I've got some glow sticks, another sterno right here, N95 masks. I've got some Spam, a couple of tunas, a chicken, so a few different canned meats. I've got a few different lighters that I wanted to test out, and I've got the cheap lighter, I've got a Scripto, and I've got the Bic, and I want to see how these are affected by long term, if those flints in there, the flints and steel, sort of bind up and get ruined. I've got some butane right here, and this lighter, which is absolutely empty, and this is what takes the butane. A couple of glow sticks, a flashlight, and some batteries, an empty flashlight. A couple of these flashlights in here, I have the batteries in them, but this one, it's empty, and some water purification tablets, and a little folding knife right here, an old folding knife that I've had forever. In this bucket right here, I've got a Bic lighter outside of a baggie. I want to see how that reacts just like that. I've got a Berkey water bottle right here. It's got the filter inside right there. I've got a little crank radio right here, which right now is fully charged. I don't know if you can hear that or see that, but right now it's fully charged. And we are going to see how charged it is after a year. And it's also got a crank, so we'll see if we can get this sucker going after a year. I've got an RZ mask, which is got the filter inside here. I've got an MRE. We're going to see, again, I've got to bury this 36 to 40 inches deep, but we'll see how this withstands. I've got a little knife right here. I've got a lantern that is already charged up. Oh, my water bottle fell. I've got a little survival kit right here. You can see how much more you get in one of these buckets rather than that PVC cache. I've got a little first aid kit right here. Got another little Walmart first aid kit right here. Some glow sticks, a life straw, a roll of toilet paper, a flashlight with the batteries in it, and it's fully charged. And I also have this thing that I'm going to bury with this wrench right here, right next to these. That way I can open all of these up. So that's not going back in there. Then I've got some duct tape, a little water purification thing, and a card sharp knife, a little multi-tool, compressed gauze. So let's put all this back together. We'll seal all these up tight, and then we will go out and we're going to dig a hole and we're going to bury all of these. All right, so let's go ahead and seal some of these up. And I'm not going to go overboard here because I really do want to see how they do on their own. This first one, this kit, I'm just going to throw a piece of gaffer's tape around it. Now, if you don't know what gaffer's tape is, really cool stuff. It's basically a combination of painter's tape and duct tape. It sticks really well, but it doesn't leave a residue afterwards. We're also going to do the same thing with this box right here. Unfortunately, the coolest box that my favorite one is also the one that probably is not going to do the best, but we will see. So I just want to throw some of this on here just to be as safe as possible, or as secure as possible. But I don't know that this is going to make all that much of a difference. This ammo box, I'm not going to do anything with it. This seems like a better seal than this has, but we will see. And then this PVC cache right here, I want to get this as tight as possible. Figured the best way to do this is to put it in a vise. Then I could get a nice, good twist on that. That is on there as good as it's going to go. All right, now for the buckets, this bucket right here, I'm just going to hammer the lid on. Just like so. Nothing else we need to do with this bucket. And this one is good to go. This gamma lid, however, we are going to have to do the two different parts. So the first part, we are going to pound this on. And good luck getting it off once you do. All right, that's on there pretty good. Now we're going to take some of this blue monster and we are going to seal the outside of this lid right here. Okay, let's go ahead and see how this does once we tighten this up. And unfortunately, there's no tool that you can use to tighten a gamma lid super tight because, you know, they probably didn't even think about them being used in a situation like this. But get that as tight as you can. Suppose you could use a rubber mallet. Get that nice and tight. So there we have it. So now we'll put the bucket opener right there in there. And we put this pipe wrench right there, plumber's wrench, whatever that's called. Keep those in here. We can bury these and hopefully keep them from corroding. At any rate, let's get these ready. We'll get outside, dig a hole, and we'll get these buried. All right, so burying the cache is pretty simple. I had to use a tractor because I've got a whole bunch of these. I've got 6 of them, and I put them all in the tractor bucket and just traveled around to the backyard and started digging a hole inside the hill rather than digging straight down. It's going to be a lot easier, and I don't have a backhoe anyway, so this is a lot easier this way. On a side note, I plan on sometime in the future, actually in this exact spot, building some sort of root cellar or, you know, bunker, I suppose. I'm not sure it's going to be big enough to be a bunker, but definitely a root cellar, but it's going to have to be a whole lot deeper than this. At any rate, once I got this down to about 3 feet, I threw the caches in there, dug out a little bit with the shovel, and then I threw the caches in there, and I'm going to pile this up over. Rather than going slope down the hill, I'm going to pile this up flat. That way it maintains that 3 to 4 feet depth, and we will see if that is below the frost line when we dig these up next year. Once I got this done, I just filled everything in. I ran over it with the tractor a few times just to pack that dirt down. And over the next month or so, I will probably load some more, probably horse manure or something on top of there, just to make sure we've got that 3 to 4 feet to get below the frost line. All right, so now that we got the caches buried, I wanted to mention a couple of things. One, you're probably not going to have a tractor, but digging a hole is kind of like digging a post hole, a wider post hole. It's going to take some work, but it is possible to do. The reason I use the tractor is because I had so many of them, I needed to bury them. If you are burying food, like I said, you're going to have to bury it pretty deep. And if you are burying a 5-gallon bucket, that could be pretty difficult. So you've got to keep that in mind as well. Also, when it comes to storing weapons and ammunition, probably not a good idea on public land, because if somebody runs across that, they could find that. 1, it's illegal, and 2, it's just not safe. On your own property, you can kind of do whatever you want. Also, there are some ordinances in some states that state that if you are burying anything in public land, that it is a littering ordinance. So make sure you know what the rules are for your area and what's going on, and then you decide what you want to do at that point. But there are a number of different reasons why you might want to think about burying a cache. From if you are just going hunting, say you're scouting out a hunting area and you want to bring some stuff up there with you, and leave it there. That way you don't have to hike up later. You can hide that, or you can bury that, whatever you want to do. From a preparedness perspective, these could be your survival supplies. Maybe like me, I've got, 6 caches worth of supplies that I've accumulated over the years. Maybe you want to do something like that with those supplies that are just sitting on the shelves that you have 3 or 4 or 6 of, supplies like that. Maybe there are situations where you've got a great bug out route planned or a get home route planned, and you want to have a little bit of something on the way. If it is food or anything like that, keep in mind that you are going to have, if you live in a climate where it does get below freezing, you are going to have to bury it below that frost line. Out here, we're looking at 3 or 4 feet. Up north, it could be a whole lot deeper than that. So, and down south, maybe you don't have to worry about that much. But make sure and keep that in mind as well. If you're burying water, burying food, anything that can freeze, you're going to have to get below that frost line. At any rate, I can't wait to open these up in a year from now. Make sure to leave me a comment below which one you think is going to stand up the best. I personally think it's going to be this PV Cache style right here, but the 5-gallon bucket with the regular lid might do pretty well also. So we'll see a year from now when we dig those up. At any rate, I am done here today. Take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.